The ship Harmony drifted silently through the void between stars. Sarah Chun stood at the observation deck, watching the distant blue glow of Zarkonian space. Her fingers traced the diplomatic seal on her uniform. 20 years of peace talks had led to this moment. Commander Chun called Jung-hoon from the bridge. His voice carried through the ship's comm system. "We're approaching the neutral zone. The Zarkonian fleet is waiting." Sarah took a deep breath. Earth's first official diplomatic mission to the Zarkonian Empire carried the hopes of billions. The war had ended 3 years ago with an uneasy ceasefire. Both sides were tired of fighting. Both sides wanted peace. "How many ships?" Sarah asked as she walked toward the bridge. 12 vessels, Jung-hoon replied. "Standard escort formation. They're keeping their weapons powered down, just like we agreed." The bridge buzzed with quiet activity. Min-jun worked at the communications station, his headset crackling with alien voices. Ezio Yeon monitored the ship's defensive systems, though they remained inactive. The Harmony carried no weapons. It was a symbol of Earth's commitment to peace. "Ma'am," Min-jun called out, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Zarkonian flagship. Audio only." "Put it through." The bridge filled with the harsh, clicking sounds of the Zarkonian language. Sarah had studied it for months, but the translator would handle the formal communication. "Greetings, human vessel," came the translated voice. "I am Fleet Commander Zex of the Zarkonian Imperial Navy. You are cleared to proceed to Station Zircon. Follow our escort ships." "This is Commander Sarah Chun of Earth's Diplomatic Corps," Sarah replied. "We thank you for the safe passage. We look forward to beginning formal peace negotiations." A pause. Then Zex's voice returned, colder than before. "Yes, peace negotiations." Something in the tone made Sarah's stomach tighten. She looked at Jung-hoon, who raised an eyebrow. The pilot had fought in the border wars. He knew when something felt wrong. The journey to Station Zircon took 6 hours. The Zarkonian escort ships maintained perfect formation around the Harmony. Too perfect, Sarah thought. It felt more like a prison than protection. Station Zircon appeared on the main screen as a massive ring of metal and crystal, spinning slowly against the stars. Docking bays dotted its outer surface like mouths waiting to swallow ships. "Impressive," Jung-hoon muttered. "Must be 50 kilometers across." "The Zarkonians don't build small," Sarah said. She'd read the intelligence reports. Their entire culture focused on displays of power and dominance. Even their peace talks would be a show of strength. "Docking Bay 7 is opening," Seo Yeon reported. "They're guiding us in with tractor beams." The Harmony settled into the docking bay with a soft thud. Through the viewports, Sarah could see Zarkonian soldiers waiting. They stood 3 meters tall, with gray-scaled skin and 4 arms ending in razor-sharp claws. Their armor gleamed under the station's lights. "Remember," Sarah told her team, "we're here as friends. Keep your movements slow and non-threatening. Jung-hoon, you stay with the ship. Min-jun and Seo Yeon, you're with me." The airlock hissed open. Sarah stepped onto the station, breathing recycled air that tasted of metal and ozone. The Zarkonian greeting party approached with measured steps. "Commander Chun," the lead Zarkonian said through his translator. "I am Station Commander Vorth. Welcome to Zircon." Sarah bowed slightly, the human gesture of respect. "Thank you for hosting these talks, Commander Vorth. Earth is committed to finding lasting peace between our peoples." Vorth's 4 eyes studied her with predatory intensity. "Yes, peace. Come, the Council of War Leaders waits." They walked through corridors lined with weapons displays and battle banners. Every surface showed scenes of Zarkonian military victories. Sarah kept her face neutral, but inside she wondered if bringing weapons displays to peace talks was normal for their culture. Council chambers stretched the length of a football field. 12 Zarkonian leaders sat on raised platforms, looking down at a simple table in the center. Sarah and her team took their seats, dwarfed by the massive aliens surrounding them. "We begin," announced the center figure. "I am War Leader Prime Thexfer. You come to speak of surrender terms?" "Surrender?" Sarah stood up slowly. "No, War Leader. We come to speak of peace between equals, of trade and cooperation, of ending the cycle of violence that has cost both our peoples so much." The Zarkonians exchanged glances. Several made sounds that might have been laughter. "Equals?" Thexfer's translator made his voice sound amused. "You mistake our intentions, human. This is not negotiation. This is your chance to surrender before we crush your pathetic worlds." Sarah felt her heart racing, but kept her voice steady. "Then why agree to these talks at all?" Thexfer's eyes glittered with malicious joy. "Because watching you beg will be entertaining." Sarah's blood turned cold, but she kept her diplomatic composure. 20 years of training had prepared her for hostile negotiations. She had not prepared for this level of mockery. "War Leader Thexfer," she said calmly, "humanity seeks peace. We have both lost millions of lives in this conflict. Surely we can find common ground." The massive Zarkonian leaned forward on his platform. His forearms spread wide in what Sarah recognized as a threatening display. "Common ground?" Thexfer's translator crackled with what sounded like laughter. "The only common ground will be the ashes of your worlds under our feet." Min Jun shifted nervously beside Sarah. His hand moved toward his sidearm before Sarah caught his eye and shook her head slightly. They were surrounded by dozens of armed Zarkonian guards. Any aggressive move would be suicide. "We came here in good faith," Sio Yan spoke up. "We brought no weapons. We trusted your word." "Trust," another war leader said, rising from his platform. "How wonderfully naive these humans are." Thexfer stood to his full 3-meter height. "Your ship will be destroyed. Your crew will be executed. But you, Commander Chun, you will have the honor of sending one final message to your pathetic Earth." Sarah's training kicked in. "Stay calm. Keep them talking. Look for opportunities." "What message?" she asked. "You will tell them that the Zarkonian Empire demands total surrender. Every human world, every human ship, every human life now belongs to us. They have 72 hours to comply. And if they refuse?" Thexfer's eyes glittered with savage joy. "Then we will demonstrate what happens to those who defy the Empire. Starting with you." 2 guards moved forward and grabbed Sarah's arms. Their claws dug through her uniform, drawing blood. Min Jun started to rise, but more guards surrounded him and Sio Yon. "The transmission room is prepared," Vorth announced. "Make your message, human. Make it convincing." They dragged Sarah through corridors lined with cheering Zarkonian soldiers. Word had spread quickly through the station. The great human diplomat would grovel before the Empire. The transmission room contained a single chair facing a camera array. Zarkonian technicians worked at control panels, setting up the broadcast that would reach Earth in 6 hours. "Sit," Thexfer commanded. "Record your surrender message." Sarah sat down slowly, her mind racing. Earth needed to know what was coming. But she also knew her duty. A human diplomat never begged. The camera activated. Sarah looked directly into the lens, knowing that billions of humans would see this message. She thought of her daughter on Earth, of Jung-hoon still trapped on their ship, of all the people counting on her. "This is Commander Sarah Chun," she began, her voice steady and clear. "I am speaking from Zarkonian Station Zircon. The peace talks were a trap. The Zarkonian Empire has demanded Earth's total surrender within 72 hours. Thexfer stepped behind the camera, his claws extended. "Tell them to surrender, human. Tell them to save themselves the pain of defeat. Sarah looked at him, then back at the camera. She smiled slightly. To my fellow humans watching this, she continued, remember who we are. Remember what we've built. Remember that we bow to no one. Enough. Vexfer roared. Tell them to surrender. Never, Sarah said simply. Vexfer's face contorted with rage. His forearms moved with lightning speed. Sarah had one moment to close her eyes and think of home. The execution was broadcast live to Earth. Admiral James Park stood in Earth's Defense Command Center, surrounded by the shocked silence of his staff. The transmission from Station Zircon had ended 3 minutes ago. The image of Sarah Chun's final moments burned in everyone's memory. Sir? General Morrison's voice was barely a whisper. Your orders? Park stared at the blank screen where Sarah's face had been. She had been his student at the Academy 20 years ago. Brilliant, dedicated, brave to the very end. Admiral? Morrison pressed. Park turned to face his command staff. His expression was carved from stone, but his eyes burned with cold fury. Signal all fleet commanders, he said quietly. Cancel all leave. Recall all ships to their battle groups. Activate the reserve fleets. Sir, the politicians will want to negotiate. The time for negotiation is over. Park cut him off. They wanted to show us what happens when we trust them. Now we'll show them what happens when they touch our people. He walked to the strategic display showing human space. Dozens of star systems. Billions of lives. All now under threat because he had believed in the possibility of peace. Sir, what are your strategic objectives? Asked Colonel Kim from the tactical station. Asterisk. Admiral Park's voice carried across the silent command center, cold as the space between stars. Total war. No quarter given. No prisoners taken. He paused, Sarah's face flashing in his memory. They wanted to see us beg. Instead, they're going to learn why you never back a human into a corner. The room erupted into activity as orders flashed across the galaxy. Humanity was going to war. 40-8 hours after Sarah Chun's execution. The Zarkonian Empire learned what human anger looked like. Fleet Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Retribution, watching the tactical display. 300 human warships had assembled in the Kepler system, just outside Zarkonian space. More were arriving every hour. Admiral, Captain Lee, reported from the communications station. The last battle group just jumped in. Total fleet strength, 437 vessels. Park nodded. In 48 hours, humanity had mobilized the largest fleet in their history. Every shipyard had worked around the clock. Every reserve ship had been recalled. Every veteran pilot had answered the call. Sir, Commander Wu approached with a data pad. Intelligence reports from our deep space scouts. The Zarkonian fleet is mobilizing too. They're pulling ships from across their empire. How many? Park asked. 800 vessels, sir. Maybe more. Park's expression didn't change. Numbers had never scared humans before. Admiral, Captain Chun called out from the tactical station. She was Sarah Chun's younger sister, pulled from the academy to serve on the flagship. Her eyes burned with the same determination her sister had shown. We're receiving a transmission from the Zarkonian fleet. They're demanding our surrender. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing War Leader Vexfer on his flagship bridge. The same alien who had ordered Sarah's execution now smiled with predatory confidence. Admiral Park. Vexfer's translator crackled. You have assembled an impressive fleet, but you are still outnumbered 2-1. Surrender now, and we will grant you quick deaths. Park stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost conversational. War Leader Vexfer, you made a mistake 48 hours ago. What mistake? Vexfer laughed. Killing your diplomat? She died squealing like, "No," Park interrupted. "Your mistake was thinking we would respond like you would. You expected us to beg, to surrender out of fear." The human admiral's expression remained neutral, but his eyes were chips of Arctic ice. "Instead, you gave us something much more valuable than a peace treaty. You gave us moral clarity. Every human in this fleet knows exactly why we're here. Every shot we fire will be righteous. Every ship we destroy will be justice." Vexfor's amusement faded slightly. "You are outnumbered, human. Your bravado means nothing." "You're right about the numbers," Park agreed. "But you made another mistake. You think this is about ships and weapons. It's not." Park gestured to his bridge crew. Every face showed the same cold determination. "This is about what happens when you corner a species that evolved from persistence hunters. What happens when you threaten the survival of beings who climb to the top of their food chain not through size or strength, but through pure, relentless stubbornness. Enough of your..." Vexfor began. "You wanted to see us beg?" Park continued. "Instead, you're about to learn why every predator species in our galaxy learned to fear humans. We don't just fight wars, war leader. We finish them." Park nodded to Captain Shun. She cut the transmission. "All ships," Park announced over the fleet com. "This is Admiral Park. In 36 hours, the Zarkonian Empire's ultimatum expires. They expect us to surrender. They expect us to grovel." His voice carried to every ship in the massive fleet. Thousands of crew members listened in silence. 48 hours ago, they executed Commander Sarachun. They broadcast her murder to intimidate us, to break our spirit. They believe fear will make us weak. Park paused, thinking of Sarah's final words. "Remember who we are." They were wrong. Fear doesn't make humans weak. Fear makes humans dangerous. Today, we remind the galaxy why our ancestors conquered a planet full of creatures bigger, stronger, and faster than them. The com crackled with responses from across the fleet. Captains acknowledging orders. Crews preparing for battle. The machinery of human war spinning to life. "Execute Operation Righteous Fury," Park ordered. All ships jumped to attack positions. The fleet vanished in a cascade of light. On Station Zircon, War Leader Vexfor watched his sensors with growing confusion. The human fleet had jumped away from the border. Long-range scans showed them scattered across a dozen systems. "What are they doing?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, War Leader. They appear to be avoiding our main fleet." "Cowards," Vexfor spat. "They run from superior numbers." An alarm began wailing across the station. Junior officers rushed to their stations as reports flooded in. "War Leader." His communications officer called out. "Emergency transmission from the Zarian system. Our supply depot is under attack." "What? By how many ships?" 20 human vessels, sir. They're destroying everything. No survivors. More alarms joined the first. Reports came in from across Zarkonian space. Mining colonies destroyed. Supply lines severed. Military installations obliterated. The humans weren't running. They were hunting. Asterisk 1 week after, Operation Righteous Fury began. The Zarkonian Empire was bleeding from 1,000 cuts. War. Leader Vexfor stood in his command center, staring at the strategic display with growing horror. Red markers covered the map of Zarkonian space. Each one represented a destroyed facility, a severed supply line, or a military installation reduced to debris. "Report," he growled at his tactical officer. 47 supply depots destroyed. 12 mining colonies obliterated. 6 military shipyards offline. The humans hit our fuel refinery at Kelstar 4 hours ago. Where is our main fleet? Vexfor demanded, still pursuing the human fleet, War Leader. But every time we get close, they jump away. They refused to engage in honorable battle. Vexver's claws scraped against the metal console. This wasn't how war was supposed to work. Two fleets met in space. The stronger side won. Simple, clean, honorable. These humans fought like parasites. They struck at empty systems while avoiding real combat. They targeted civilians and infrastructure instead of warriors. It was ... dishonorable ... War leader, his communications officer called out, voice shaking. Priority transmission from the home fleet. Admiral Korthik wants to speak with you. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Korthik's scarred face. The old warrior looked tired. Vexvar, Korthik said without preamble. The Imperial Council is demanding answers. Why have you not crushed these humans? Admiral, they refuse to fight. They run from our superior numbers and attack defenseless targets. Defenseless? Korthik's eyes narrowed. The Kelstar refinery had a full defense grid. 30 warships. All destroyed in 6 minutes. Vexvar felt cold dread creeping up his spine. 6 minutes? The humans are not running, you fool. They're hunting us. Like we're prey animals. Captain Jung-hoon piloted his modified fighter through the wreckage of the Zarkonian mining station. 3 weeks ago, he had been flying the diplomatic ship Harmony. Now he commanded Strike Squadron 7, one of dozens of hunter-killer groups terrorizing Zarkonian space. Clean sweep, reported Lieutenant Kim over the comm. All defense platforms destroyed. No survivors. Jung-hoon nodded grimly. Since Sarah's execution, the rules had changed. No prisoners. No mercy. The Zarkonians had chosen this path when they murdered a diplomat under a flag of truce. Squadron, form up. Intelligence reports a supply convoy heading through the Nexus system. 30 minutes to intercept. His squadron fell into formation behind him. 12 human fighters against whatever escort the convoy might have. A month ago, those odds would have been suicide. Now they were just another day's work. The humans had learned something important in 3 weeks of war. The Zarkonian Empire was big and strong, but it was also slow and stupid. They thought like predators who had never been hunted. Humans thought like prey that had become the Yasidae, hunters. Contact called his sensor operator. 18 cargo ships with a 12-ship escort. They're running a standard defensive formation. Jung-hoon smiled coldly. Standard formations worked against standard enemies. Humans were not standard. Execute attack pattern Delta. Hit and fade. No heroics. The squadron split into 3 groups, approaching from different angles. The Zarkonian escort moved to intercept, following their tactical manual perfectly. That was their mistake. Human fighters weren't built for glory. They were built for efficiency. Each one carried enough firepower to kill ships 10 times their size, powered by engines that could outrun anything the Zarkonians had. The battle lasted 4 minutes. 18 cargo ships, full of vital supplies, became expanding clouds of debris. The escort died without landing a single shot. RTB, Jung-hoon ordered. Return to base. Already his squadron was jumping to hyperspace, leaving the Zarkonians to wonder where they had come from and where they had gone. Asterisk. Admiral Park studied the latest reports from his mobile command ship. 3 weeks of continuous operations had crippled the Zarkonian war machine. Their main fleet still outnumbered his forces, but numbers meant nothing if you couldn't supply your ships or repair them when they broke down. Admiral, Captain Shun approached with a grim smile. Long-range scouts report the enemy main fleet is breaking apart. They're having to split up to protect the remaining facilities. Park nodded. That was the key to human warfare. Force your enemy to spread out. Make them defend everything. Then pick them apart piece by piece. Sir, Commander Wu called from the intelligence station. "We're intercepting Zarkonian communications. Their civilian populations are starting to panic. Some outer colonies are requesting Federation protection." "Denied," Park said without hesitation. "They chose their side when they cheered our diplomat's murder." "Admiral," Captain Sean said quietly, "some of my officers are asking when we'll accept surrender." Park thought of Sarah Chun's final message. "Remember who we are. When every single Zarkonian warship is destroyed," he said. "When every military installation is reduced to scrap. When their empire is broken so completely that they'll never threaten another species again." He looked out at the stars, each one representing worlds that would never again have to fear Zarkonian aggression. "They wanted to teach us about fear," Park said. "Class is still in session. 6 months after Sarah Chun's execution, War Leader Thexver knelt in the ruins of his flagship's bridge. Human boarding parties had swept through the ship like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Now he waited for death, surrounded by the bodies of his crew. Admiral Park entered the bridge with 2 Marines. He looked older than when the war started, his hair showing gray at the temples. But his eyes still burned with cold fury. "War Leader Thexver," Park said quietly, "you wanted to show us what happens when we trust you. Mission accomplished." Thexver raised his head defiantly. "Kill me, human. Get your revenge." "Revenge?" Park almost smiled. "This isn't about revenge. This is about education." The Admiral gestured to the viewports, showing the wreckage of the once mighty Zarkonian fleet. Hundreds of ships floated as twisted metal sculptures, their crews dead or scattered. "Your empire lasted 3,000 years," Park continued. "You conquered dozens of species. You thought you were apex predators. We are warriors." Thexver snarled. "You fight without honor." "Honor," Park repeated thoughtfully. "Is there honor in murdering diplomats? In threatening genocide? In broadcasting executions to terrorize civilians?" Thexver had no answer. "You made one fundamental mistake," Park said. "You thought strength meant size and claws and superior numbers. But real strength is adaptability, learning, growing, becoming whatever you need to become to survive." Park knelt down to meet Thexver's eyes. "Humans spent 1,000,000 years learning to hunt creatures bigger and stronger than us. We developed patience, persistence, the ability to work together toward a single goal. We became the most dangerous thing in our galaxy." "What? What do you want?" Thexver whispered. "Surrender," Park said simply. "Complete and unconditional. Your military disbanded. Your war leaders tried for war crimes. Your empire dissolved. And then? Then you learned to live as part of the galactic community instead of trying to conquer it." 1 year later, Admiral Park stood in the same chamber where Sarah Chun had died. Station Zircon had been converted into a memorial and museum. The Great Hall now displayed artifacts from dozens of species, celebrating cooperation instead of conquest. Captain Chun approached with a datapad. Sarah's sister had been promoted after showing exceptional tactical skills during the war. "Admiral, the annual report from the Galactic Council," she said. "Trade is up 40%. Piracy down 60%. No major conflicts reported." Park nodded. The galaxy had changed dramatically after the Zarkonian Empire's collapse. Other aggressive species had suddenly become very interested in peaceful cooperation when they saw what happened to those who threatened human allies. "Sir," Captain Chun continued, "the Council is offering you the position of Supreme Fleet Commander. All member species would contribute ships to a unified defense force under human leadership." Park considered this. A year ago, humans had been one species among many, respected but not feared. Now they were the acknowledged guardians of galactic peace. "What's the vote count?" he asked. "Unanimous, sir. Even former Zarkonian colonies voted yes. through the memorial's viewports. Park could see human patrol ships moving through space alongside vessels from a dozen other species. Former enemies now worked together, united by the understanding that cooperation was safer than conquest. "Sir?" Captain Chun pressed. "Your answer?" Park thought of Sarah Chun, standing in this same spot, trying to build bridges instead of walls. She had believed in peace through understanding. The galaxy had chosen peace through strength instead. "Accept the position," he said finally. "But with conditions. A unified fleet protects all member species equally. No species gets special treatment. And any species that threatens civilians or commits war crimes faces the same fate as the Zarkonian Empire." "Yes, sir." The Council expected those conditions. "They're already approved." Park smiled slightly. The other species had learned quickly. A young ensign approached nervously. "Admiral Park? There's a transmission from Earth. President Martinez wants to speak with you." The main screen activated, showing the familiar face of Earth's leader. "Admiral Park," Martinez said warmly. "Congratulations on your appointment. The whole human race is proud of what you've accomplished." "Thank you, Mr. President. Though, I think Sarah Chun deserves the real credit. She showed us who we needed to become. Speaking of which," Martinez continued, "we're establishing the Chun Institute for Diplomatic Studies. We want to make sure future diplomats understand both the power of negotiation and the consequences of betraying that trust." Park nodded approvingly. "Perfect. The galaxy needs to remember both lessons." As the transmission ended, Park looked around the memorial one more time. Visitors from across the galaxy came here to learn about the price of aggression, to understand what happened when a species tried to build peace through terror instead of trust. The Zarkonian Empire was gone, but the galaxy was safer, more united, and more peaceful than it had been in centuries. Sometimes, Park reflected, the greatest mercy was showing no mercy at all to those who would destroy the innocent. The human age had begun. Asterisk.